All right, well, we'll have to see if Get Flanked, they really need this win. But again, like you said, unfortunately, they are in front of a very strong team that's finally on their good footing. So that's going to head us out as we go right into it on Prokhorovka.
Prokhorovka, one of the first maps in the game. Teams start at the regular spawn points as they do in standard battles. Bases are separated from each other by the railway, so the defending team has to choose whether to send their vehicles to the left side, playing them in the centre, or to the right of the railway, occupying the hill and a part of the village. The attacking team usually attacks the first base. However, the teams often go for face-to-face confrontations, 7-on-7, in the hilly terrain at the centre. That's why both teams frequently use vehicles with good gun depression angles and sturdy turrets.
First match of the night, and it's going to be on Prok.
Yep, and going over the lineups real quick, Get Flanked coming in with an IS-7, 4 Object 140s, a Batchat, and an RU-251. So really relying on those Russian mediums with the consistent fire, getting away from that meta of bringing a lot of burst-heavy autoloaders, which we've seen out of a lot of the different teams, including like Apex and Eclipse.
We definitely have, yes.
So I'm deciding to go with the consistent fire, which is respectable. We'll have to see if they can make it work, though. Meanwhile, Aquatic M60s, an E5, an IS-7, a 430, an STV, a 140, a Batchat, and an RU-251, so just taking one of everything off the shelf and throwing it up there. Meanwhile, Morphic just going for a passive one-line scout.
Yeah, and we see both teams here setting up on the 1-2 line, which is very common, although the last time we saw Prok last Tuesday, we actually saw a completely different setup. It was all on the east side of the map, which was around like the 6-7 line. So this is something that I'm more used to seeing as a standard setup. You have the attacking team will be south, right there around the K or Kilo line down on the bottom of the map, and then you'll have the other team opposite.
So something to point out there for those that just saw Andy Pants backing up over that ledge till he got lit. All he was doing was what I've talked about many times before, where he's backing up until he knew which bush would be looking at him and to see if he got spotted. And so now Get Flanked are blind firing these bushes where he has communicated that he believes they are. Now they are firing the wrong bush, so they are a little bit off. It is a very tricky.
Got very close.
It is a very tricky skill to master. So obviously they haven't quite figured it out exactly. I see Andy Pants popped up again.
Yep.
So
gets lit for his trouble though.
Yep. So already a minute and 30 gone.
I like this. I don't think I've seen this before on this map. This type of, well, I mean, I'm sure this is not something too uncommon, but I've never seen like a little defensive hold-up like that.
It's actually pretty common down there along B2. The way the road bends over towards the 1-2 line, it actually is a bit of a defilade. It goes down, and so they can just sit here relatively hold down, and what the other team has to do is they have to push all the way in. Well, they're getting free shots off, hold down, and all echeloned off each other. If a tank comes down in front of them right now, all they're going to have shots on is Mr. Man. So if they all shoot him, that's fine. He may go down. However, the other 3 tanks are then going to have cover. Done in a perfect situation, what will happen is Mr. Man will take a lot of the damage, and once he's low, we'll see him drop back, and Veggie will get in front of him.
Veggie will be the next tank.
They'll cycle him up, and they'll try to keep the guns alive
neat.
And just rotate around.
That's very neat. All right, so actually we see Ledev here trying to move up. He gets spotted by Morphic, and they're still trying to find out where he's positioned as they continue to blind fire on that 1-2 line to try to find him, but no luck.
Ledev taking a shot of damage from one of this.
Oh, nice shot from Felix. Tags Chai Sniper. Kind of very, very slow, methodical pace we see from Aquatic M60s, which is actually not something I'm too used to with this team. They're usually very aggressive, obviously on offense, but as well as defense.
And I think that has to do with how the level that they respect their opponent with. I think they feel that they are, and I could be totally wrong right here, it's total speculation, but maybe what's happening right now is they feel that they are just the better team individually, and so they're just going to let their individual play do it for them. They're just going to slow it down and let the other team make the play and see if the other team makes a mistake that they can capitalize on. They don't feel that they need to just go for some raw aggression off the bat. Morphic taking a shot of damage.
Yeah, finally. But still, he's not spotted, though.
Correct.
He has not been lit.
So they have a good idea where they are. If they were checking the bushes and seeing if dirt was popping up behind it, they may have a pretty good idea he's there. The other thing to keep in mind is their A251, a light tank. Light tanks do not lose their camo value when they start moving.
Oh,
they
lots
know
of
he's
shots,
there.
though, yeah. He's got to be careful now. He's taking so much damage. One more shot would actually end that little tank's life, but he looks like he's going to get away. Still hasn't been lit either, so lucky break there for Morphic.
Yep, so like I was talking about, light tanks don't lose their camo value just simply by moving. Now, if he leaves the bush line, he will lose the additional camo that bush gives him. However,
he won't be
he's driving further away, and he hasn't lost his camo. Now, if he was to fire his gun, he would lose his camo value, and he would be spotted. For some of those new-to-world tanks, when we refer to getting lit or being spotted, it's when Sixth Sense goes off, and the other team and the whole other team can see you when you have become spotted. Essentially, it's one of the commander perks that you can give your crew. All of these players,
they can see your health bar across the map, correct?
Correct.
As long as they're within their field of vision.
They'll know their HP. They'll be able to see exactly where they are, and they'll see them on the mini map. Going dark, when we say go dark, that means that they've broken the line of sight. They've gotten somewhere where they aren't spotted, and then they can just drive away. You have a 6-second gap from when they break line of sight to when you go dark. Meanwhile,
shots on Carjax, and down he goes. Mr. Man finding the shots in the Object 430, and they're actually going to push a little bit now on the east side as they move further down that 7 line. That was very unfortunate. That's going to be vision lost now for Team Get Flanked.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Aquatic AM60s did the random rotate without really having a whole lot of info, and they did catch Carjax out. And what happened is the tanks from Get Flanked realized that all of their tanks had moved over towards the 7-8 line, and they could push up for free.
And as they do that, though, Felix is finding shots on Chai Sniper in that IS-7. Now, IS-7 does not have the worst gun depression, but also not the best.
Correct. The turret is the only saving grace there. An extremely strong turret that someone would be very fortunate to find a pen on him. But it does look like Felix is going to try to work the ground and find a shot on him.
Yeah, nice little snap over there to Bales as he takes a little bit of damage. But Chai Sniper still in a very tough situation, although he's still somewhat safe unless Felix decides to push over that hill to try to get a shot off to take him out. Fortunately, though, for Chai, his team is watching that angle, and if Felix pops up, he potentially faces death himself.
So meanwhile, while we're saying all that, Andy Pans and Last Minute Iron actually rotated out of the 9-0, conceded the hill, and moved back to the middle to regroup with the rest of their team. Only the RU-251 down for Get Flanked. Aquatic M60s still have all 7 guns alive. However, Mr. Man does have a dead driver.
Yeah, and the HP pool is actually an advantage right now, very slightly for Get Flanked. So still definitely within the realm of possibility for Get Flanked.
However, something to keep an eye on. Well,
let
HP's in their favor.
Well, and just like that, Aquatic M60's a slight lead.
Well, HP is in their favor. You got to look at the timer. They're down to 320,
right.
And that does not leave a whole lot of time to attack, whether they're going to try to go for all the kills or they're going to try to get a tank on that cap circle and start the cap going.
I mean, if anything, the closer they're going to need 3 tanks on cap, and that's even more difficult. But down goes Chai Sniper, so Felix is going to push up and find the shot, and honestly, not really getting punished for it too much either. And I sense a little bit of urgency now coming out of Get Flanked as they need to make some sort of play. Unfortunately, they're down now 2 tanks, one of which was their light scout, the 251 out of Carjax, but losing another gun out of Chai Sniper was very unfortunate.
Andy Pans in the bat chat still reloading. However, he has drifted down south, and he will find Morphic relatively isolated. However, he doesn't know that up on the hill is Dark Ninja sitting up there.
There's a whole lot of unfriendly.
So he may try to just jump on this and capitalize it, but I don't think he
looks like Ledev is actually going to do it as he pops over to take a shot, and he's going to take Morphic down. Nice shot, and he doesn't even get punished for it.
Yeah, no, I don't know why Dark Ninja had shells.
I think Ninja was potentially worrying about
Andy Pans. He's looking for shots, and he's missing all his shots right now onto Andy Pans.
That is very unfortunate there.
So the thing is, Dark Ninja there, he had 2 shots left in his drum, and he just decided to drop them. He knew Andy Pans had probably been counting, so Andy Pans knew he still had 2 shells left. So right now, Andy Pans doesn't know that he's reloading. He assumes that he has 2 shells left. However, Dark Ninja's going to go ahead and drop them.
Ooh, nice shot there, though, from, I believe that was Felix, just tagging Andy Pans for 494 there. But again, the thing to realize is 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes now left on this clock. So as you see, Get Flanked is starting to make their move. They really don't have a choice. Taking a lot of damage, though. Andy Pans with the help of Ledev, they're going to take out Veggie, and the Object 140 is now Ledev goes for the counter on Felix.
Dark Ninja missing his opening
Ninja
shot.
Finally getting a shot off and taking him out. Now more damage coming onto Mr. Man as he gets taken out trying to clean up Ledev. And a miss. Felix now taking damage. This is somewhat in favor of Get Flanked now here in the scramble.
Somehow Get Flanked are staying with this. However, Ledev is a one-shot, goes down. It's a 2-on-2 with an HP lead in favor of M60s, but ever so slightly.
Yeah, Bales now backing off, realizes that he's in a bad position. Although he does have Redux behind him, it's, again, a 2-on-2 with a slight life lead in favor of Aquatic M60s, but this can very quickly change. is now last minute iron, pushes over that hill. He's going to take 2 shots, 2 more, and he's going to go down. Bales, though, not much health left. As Redux now is trying to take out last minute iron.
They could capitalize on this. They need to hurry up and kill Bales with the next shot.
And
Nope.
they don't get it. Unfortunate.
And this is a very tough situation to be Brian in right now. He does get tracked. Bales is just going to drive over the hill and get safe. The shot
and that's
missing.
going to do it. Aquatic M60s, unless they do something very foolish, are going to take this first battle.
Bales is exposing himself, and another bounce out of Brian.
But I mean, Redux was just giving him a ride, you know? So, pretty slow start to that battle, but very quickly it turned into an all-out brawl, and we saw sides kind of being traded as far as the HP and tank advantage went.
So Get Flanked being very reactive there, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. They actually they recognized the opportunities that they had. They understood when the tanks rotated out of the 1-2 line and showed up on their side. They made their push, and then when the tanks were in a position where they could really jump on it, they forced their brawls.
Right.
And they gave themselves a fairly good chance. You know, really close HP-wise up until that last moment.
Dark Ninja actually did not capitalize because he was looking so much for anti-pans, and he was so focused that they didn't see Ledif come up and take a shot and take out
Morphic.
Yeah,
and
and 251.
The other thing is, I think Vio was in the middle. I think he was too busy looking for shots over towards, I think it was one of the E5s from Get Flanked in the middle. However, he just didn't find a shot, and you know, he couldn't punish Ledif when he poked over.
Yeah, so, I mean, started out pretty well for Get Flanked there, even though they lost their scout and carjacks. They were still able to bring a comeback, take out the counter scout of Morphic and the other 251, and they got other shots off. That was getting the HP pool in their advantage, but they weren't able to really capitalize.
Yeah,
I mean, the HP pool lead was really like
they kept it very even until the end, but the problem was they only left themselves with a minute left to attack. And so
that was the problem. It took too long.
They didn't have time to really work the speed advantage that those 140s bring. They couldn't get in and around that E5 and STB, and they played it very well. They stayed tight to each other. When last minute iron came over that ridge, they were able to focus them out. And looking at the damage there, Redux, who was alive to the very end there, 3,700 damage in his STB. A lot of good damage there. Bryant coming in at 3K for Get Flanked, and then Bales coming in with another 2,700. Then a bunch of Get Flanked players actually on the top page, 2,300, 2,300, 22,700. So very respectable damage split out of all of them. They're doing pretty good, but
right.
They need to keep things going. They need to get a little bit more aggressive and dictate play.
That's definitely what I think lost them that match, was they just waited too long, and although they were getting good trades, unfortunately they were running out of time, so that puts a little extra pressure on you, which means that you can't necessarily be as strategic as you want to, because you're like, okay, well, we either do this now or we don't.
In my opinion, the biggest thing that Get Flanked is struggling with right now is they're really struggling to dictate play. We saw it versus Eclipse the other day,
yes.
and we're seeing it again right now. They have a kind of an idea what they want to do, but they can't really make their opponent feel awkward or make them rotate or do anything.
They can't put them on their back foot,
yeah, they let them stay stagnant, and they let them react how they want to. And you know, it worked a little bit last round because they were able to keep it even. However, as we saw, it does not work versus a team like Eclipse.
Yeah, it looks like very similar lineups here, if not the exact same. All right, Morphic getting a quick spot on Carjacks. They're just going to back off each other. Nice little scouting battle. We have seen some of those scouting battles go pretty violent, though, in past games.
Yep, so going over the lineup here real quick, Get Flanked coming in with an IS-7, 2 STVs, 2 140s, a Batchat, and an RU-251. Once again, Carjacks bringing that little Tier 8 light tank. Meanwhile, Aquatic M60s, an E5, a 430, an STB, a 140, 2 Batchats, and an RU-251. So once again, just pulling one of everything off the shelf, except this time deciding to go with 2 Batchats. Something that I noticed last game is Dark Ninja was really struggling to connect with that Batchat.
Right, on that hill.
And when you have an autoloader like that, you really need to make sure that as many of your shots count as possible. Now, he was in a position where it didn't matter a whole lot because he was elevated and far away, so there was no real chance of him being punished except for returning fire. However, you know,
I mean, he could have put more damage on the field for Aquatic M60s. That could have helped out, actually, in that main fight.
Exactly, but, you know, and don't get me wrong, they were extremely tight shots that he had to take on Andy Pans. However, if you don't have a good shot, sometimes, especially in an autoloader, it's worth it just to hold the shell and wait till you have a guaranteed damaging shot, because you have that 40-second reload they have to deal with. So you'd really want to try to make, you know, your full clip count as often as you can.
We see Morphic here hiding in a bush, which is what you're going to see a lot from these Tier 8 lights.
Yep, and he just has a toe on Cap, and the rest of the team is set up to cover him. And if you notice, they're all sitting at Echo 2, and the reason that is because they could rotate around to any side of the map very quickly. So wherever this push comes from get flanked to retake this cap circle, they're going to be in a position to punish. They only have the one STB up north and then one bat chat down south for eyes. If either of those two light anything, they can just rotate all of those mediums around. The E5 can just rotate to a different corner of that bowl, and they'll have shots on it.
Yep, we just saw a shot coming out of Veggie onto the IS-7 there, a Tri-Sniper, but again, he's a little hold down there. It's very difficult to deal with an IS-7 that is hold down, and that's another bounce, and he was actually coming over the ridgeline there.
So another thing to keep an eye on here, though, is Carjax actually doesn't know where Morphic is on cap. He's poking over the ridge continually, trying to find a shot on him, but he doesn't know the exact bush, so he's sitting here blind firing the bushes, hoping to get a reset.
Chai is still bouncing shells, finally takes a little bit of damage there, but again, another bounce, as the frontal armor of the IS-7 is pretty annoying to deal with.
Especially in a situation like that. Meanwhile, Mr. Man getting lit up on the high ground where some of the other tanks from Get Flank could shoot him. However, it's only Chai Sniper
20
really.
seconds on the clock, James.
And Ledif has moved in. Ledif will get the light and reset him here in a moment. Gets lit and gets the reset.
There it is.
Now, here's the thing, is that having to move Ledif to get that reset means he had to come across that 6 line, and he had to come to their side. He cannot leave now. He's stuck. And this is a good situation for Aquatic M60s because they have 2 tanks completely isolated, and they just have to worry about a rotate from the other 5.
Morphic, though, right back to it. I mean, he's not going to let up. And now that he knows that Ledif is there and that he's stuck, it's actually a very good position to put even more cap pressure. Although it is 100 seconds, it is still cap pressure nonetheless. Yep,
so that's just time. But the thing is that right now the cap pressure almost is meaningless because they should have the guaranteed reset from Ledif and Chai Sniper. The other thing to keep an eye on is a lot of module damage coming out of Get Flank. Chai Sniper has a damaged ammo rack, meaning he's only going to reload once every about, I believe, 14 seconds with the damaged ammo rack. Meanwhile, Last Minute Iron has a dead loader, so his tank is going to be a little bit slow to load as well. So just something to keep an eye on there. Another bounce coming out onto Chai.
Yeah, a lot of bounces actually this round so far. Bales is... I'm actually not sure who he took damage from. Probably Bryant, I'm guessing, in the Object 140.
Well, it could have been the South
Or it
tanks.
actually made it even been Andy Pants there, or Carjax.
So what's likely happening is Bales is pushing over, trying to find a shot onto Chai Sniper to cover Morphic. And what's happening is Get Flanked have these tanks all the way in the south, and he has to pop up to the top of that ridgeline where the tanks in the south have a clean shot. So that's most likely where he took the damage from.
That's where Redux and Dark Ninja are actually coming in. Dark Ninja taking a little bit of damage there as they're now getting onto Ledif. He has to back off that ridge. They are going for a more aggressive play on him. And this should be a dead Ledif, not taking too much damage as well. Very good for Aquatic M60s. They're taking out another gun. And now Chai Sniper is taking lots of damage. He should be going down in just a moment. Lucky bounce, but Last Minute Iron coming in, taking out Dark Ninja. That's huge.
Now, the biggest thing to keep an eye on here is they left Bales up on the U5 on top of that ridge where he has clean shots anywhere. Get Flanked trying to punish these guys and keep them in the low ground. However, Bales is going to make that extremely hard and punish them. And so right now they should be able to get their tanks out of there and regroup for a second push.
Morphic also very close to death. We also saw Anypans just a moment ago very close to death. In fact, most of these tanks, aside from Bryant and Last Minute Iron, as I say that Bryant gets taken very low, are almost on the verge of being one-shot. Get Flanked in a very bad position. Still 4 minutes and 30 seconds to deal with. Aquatic M60s looks like they're going to sweep this one out and take it for themselves.
Yep, and it looks like Morphic is going to go hunting for Carjax. They are roughly both one-shotters.
Oh! That was at least a little personal victory there for Carjax. He's going to take out Morphic. But yeah, I mean, honestly, the positioning there from Aquatic M60s seemed really good, like you said, to deal with the entire map as far as controlling
and this
pressure.
This is what I was talking about as far as dictating play. They established control, they took care of that one line, and they got a tank on cap. And from that point, once they have that cap pressure, they
force Get Flanked to play their game.
They force Get Flanked to become the attackers. Once again, I say that phrase oh so often, but it's so crucial in this game mode.
Right.
With the double cap circle, you really have to get in a position where the other team has to push into you. Being the attacker is always... The advantage always goes to the defender because they have the position they can hold normally. They have some good cover. They hold down. So to make that push and to really get in between those tanks to be able to do consistent damage, you're going to have to take damage making that push. So if you can set up in a situation where their team has to come into your guns, you know, Bales and that E5 hold down,
correct,
the 140 sitting behind, it really works for your advantage.
Yeah, as we look at the damage here, Last Minute Iron actually coming out again in the STV1. Going to do 2,500. as the next 4 members to be on top of the list are actually all from Aquatic M60s. We see Mr. Man in the 430 doing 22, Veggie with the 140 doing 21, and then Felix, Dark Ninja doing about 2K and 2100 respectively. So, but even still, I mean, Get Flanked, they were in there. The problem is they weren't getting any kill shots.
Correct. And they got in there to where they could start resetting the cap, but once again, that was only because M60s really made them come back.
They made,
that cap pressure.
let it, yeah.
Yeah, let it up. You know, they had Shy Sniper to attempt to do it, but the thing is from that position where that I-7 was, he has to poke over far enough to where he will take damage. He has to go over that ridge, and they had guns in a position to punish him. And so he knew that he couldn't get the lights consistently, and if he kept poking up, he was just going to lose too much HP, so they had to bring in a second tank to get the lights and to help get those resets. And when you commit 2 tanks into that low ground like that, all of a sudden that's two tanks that are isolated. They know exactly where you are at all times. And you can't.
Bales was still on that hill in the E5.
Yep,
so.
and they can't leave without taking damage.
Right.
So it's just a bad situation to be in and get flanked. And the other 5 tanks couldn't find a way to really save them. They couldn't release the pressure from them, essentially.
So just so you all know, because we know now, Aquatic M60s called a quick timeout, tactical timeout. So, I mean, they are playing well. Maybe they thought they were a little sloppy for some reason. I don't know, but they're going to call a attack timeout and slow it down, although they are up 2-0 right now. So
looking down real quick at my notes, map number 2 will actually be steps. So maybe wanting to take a second to kind of figure out what they're going to do on steps. Being up 2-0 and playing get flanked, you know, they feel comfortable.
Sure.
Maybe coming out with a different strat. Maybe they haven't practiced just to save some of the other strats for later down the road.
And that's honestly a very good point. As far as what you want to practice, you're up 2 games against a team you feel comfortable against. There's no reason to try something that you know may not work because your risk is not as huge.
Well, you could argue. Well, yeah, you could argue something that you haven't tried before, haven't really practiced. And the thing is these teams, you got to remember, all the other players in this league can watch these broadcasts.
Absolutely.
They can see the strats that they run.
Most of them do.
Yeah, and you can see evidence in that in some other matches. Some people know what I'm talking about. But so what they may be doing right now is saying, all right, we know these strats work, but why break them out right now when there's no pressure on us? Why don't we try something either a little bit goofy or a little bit different just to try, just to see if we can get the win that way without revealing our, our strats that we're comfortable with.
They could try a strategy that works or doesn't work, but they could then realize why it did or didn't work. They can tweak it and make it even better, and that could actually just be one of their playbook strategies that they can use in the future. I mean, again, it's always good to try things out. You always get to try them out in scrims and stuff like that, but when you try it on a match day, the setting for a scrim and an actual match or battle will always be different. The pressure feels different, the atmosphere is a little different, the team speaks a little differently, so it's nice to bring it out in that environment as opposed to just scrims or practice all the time.
Because they still want to win. They're going to do everything they can. So sometimes you have a strat that goes wrong and you just kind of give up on it in a practice. You just say, all right, let's just restart. Because the thing about scrims...
Yeah, because it's just, who cares? It's just a scrim.
Yeah, exactly. Scrims, they're there to test strats. They're not there to see, can we beat this other team?
Yes.
They don't really go into that with that sort of mindset. Some teams do, don't get me wrong, but often the wrong one.
All right, so let's head into it. Second map, it's going to be Steps.
Steps, the most open map in the league. The attacking team appears near the rocks at the bottom of the map, and the defending team starts at the top. Bases are located near the railway and on the green. The best way to control them is to use the lowland near the second base. The attacking team usually begins the attack from the rocks and the railway, but sometimes they can attack through the green. Teams often drag vehicles from flank to flank, so both teams usually pick light vehicles with a good camouflage rating, but sometimes use tanks with a strong turret and even SPGs.
Map 2.
And SPGs, we will see Aquatic M60s breaking out Rodux in that M4043. Meanwhile, the rest of the team bringing a 215B, a 113, an Object 430, Object 140, 2 bat chats, and then that tier 8 artillery I already talked about.
We've seen Artie out of Aquatic M60s before, haven't we?
A couple times.
I feel like them and CD are the 2 teams that I've seen use artillery the most.
Yeah, we actually saw Noble, now known as Apex, use artillery a lot last season.
That.
However, that was when they had Marsh on their team.
Some of the VODs you were having me watch, I also noticed that, but I don't think we've seen that this season at all.
Meanwhile, both teams going towards this B1 corner.
Oh, this could be a very early brawl.
The 113s coming across. And the thing is these 113s actually don't want to get spotted now. They want to make sure that these tanks from M60s really commit and that they get in there to where they can't leave. They're going to come around this corner. Mr. Man should get lit right there. Now they know that the 113s are there. Now this is where Get Flanked really need to dictate. They need to come around and try to isolate those tanks.
Oh, and Bobby taking out Veggie very quickly there.
Ammo rack going on to Veggie, going down.
That is most unfortunate for Veggie, as now Felix taking quite a bit of damage, almost out. Mr. Man is also very low on hit points. This is a very bad situation for Aquatic AM60s, but a great situation for Get Flanked. As now Chai Sniper takes out Mr. Man. Brian, this is...
The lucky ammo rack coming in there and just starting things off.
This is exactly what they wanted.
And this may end their 15-round loss streak that they have right now.
I'm rooting for him. Aquatic AM60s, it's not looking very good as Bale's now about to go down. Last minute iron coming around that tank of Bales in the 113 with the other 113, so a little 113 duel there. But it's going to go, obviously, to Bryant. Morphic.
And all 7 tanks alive for Get Flanked.
That's game.
Great execution of that strategy. I'll go over that in just a second. Dark Ninja will go down.
I didn't even get to see really what happened.
So it has to do with a lot of standard meta and stuff we see out of other teams and how we've seen that strat run in the past. However, it is a very quick round.
Little redux now.
2 minutes, and
I've seen him win these.
Is he going to take the coward's way out?
No, I've seen him.
No, he's going to go for the fight. I thought for a second there he was going to pull into the rock and end his own life. He gets the shotgun. Only does...
That's 594, but...
594.
I'm just kidding. I've actually never seen him win those.
Yeah, so people right now know exactly what I'm talking about. Artillery, sometimes they're the last ones left, and they know that it's against them. And so they find a lake to drive into or find a building to put their gun barrel up against, and then they're like,
well, because
don't be that guy, please don't.
It denies Pubby's damage.
Yeah, no, don't be that guy. Yeah. Don't be that guy. That's not nice to everybody else. They want the damage. They want the kill.
That's what I'm saying. So anyways, please explain what happened in that lightning fast. So Get Flanked finally breaks the streak.
So, yeah, Get Flanked ran a very, very good defensive strategy there where it causes a lot of aggression. The whole plan there is to take one side of the map so they don't have to worry about one cap. Normally, we see teams just defer to just holding the 2 cap, and so they just focus on resetting the other cap. However, what they did is they pushed up, and the thing that I really liked is a lot of teams will stay passive back in that north corner, even once those heavies get spotted. What they did is once they realized that some of the tanks from M60s had committed, and they knew that their 113s were spotted, because the second those 113s got spotted, M60s knew something was up. They knew, all right, they're doing some sort of push. These 2 113s aren't going to be here by themselves. And so the tanks from Get Flanked just pushed up and over. They found the isolation. And I believe it was poor little old Veggie just got ammo racked and lit up and went down. Going over the damages, Bobby, Bryant, Last Minute Iron, all putting up good, consistent damage there for Get Flanked. Dark Ninja, that 215B, only able to pump out 1900. Bales also doing 1900. But Ledith and Carjax also on the top page, so taking 5 of the top 7 for Get Flanked. Meanwhile, Mr. Man, Morphic, Redux, Felix, and Veggie all going down there. Now, the ammo rack did end that round a little bit fast for, I believe it was Veggie or Felix.
So that's something you've been talking about a lot. Real quick, just for those of the viewers that are newer, ammo racking.
So every tank has an ammo rack in their tank. That's where the ammo is stored.
Obviously.
When a shell hits that ammo rack, it can either damage it to where it's going to slow your reload, or it can do what happened right there where it detonates it. And what happens is because of the combustion inside the tank, the air has to go somewhere. And so what happens is the turret just goes straight up in the air, and that's game over. Yeah. You can be full health, and you, like, say, a T92 AP shell into your ammo rack in an IS-7. You're done. GG. Go home. You know, so a little bit lucky there.
It's also very exciting to see that. We've seen a few ammo racks so far, but never in the beginning of the match where it really counted.
That was the first time where it really came into how the game played out.
Yeah, really dictated that. And poor Veggie.
Yeah, feel bad for him. Meanwhile, Bryant in this 113 Get Flanked is just going to push over to the middle road and push up by himself. A little bit risky there. Some random aggressive strategies we've seen out of some teams before is just to push the middle road hard. However, he's lucky that is not the case right now.
So Get Flanked's got to have a little confidence, though, coming into this, finally breaking that losing streak of not getting around.
Yep. Now, don't get me wrong. Their previous opponents, they played Eclipse last in that 5-0, and to an extent, it's almost a little bit understandable. Now, obviously, you never want to get 5-0'd. However, Eclipse being as good as they are and Get Flanked still adjusting to the Gold League, it can happen.
Tough. It's absolutely tough.
Yeah, so, you know, they only took them, 15 rounds to get another win, so not too bad a streak there. However, going over the lineups real quick, Get Flanked coming in with a 113, 3 Object 140s, 2 Bat Jets, and an RE-251, keeping it pretty simple there. Once again, favoring those Russian 140s, good hold-down tanks, good range snipers, and they are relatively quick enough to
Bale's getting a boost. He's going to have quite a lot of vision and good shots, hopefully coming down if and when the team of Get Flanked decide to push.
Yep, so looking over at M60s, a 113, 2 STBs, a 140, 2 Bat Chats, and a RU-251 with Morphic in it again. Like you said, they do have the tank up on the boost, the Bat Chat up there. The thing with having a tank committed up there, I actually have 2 tanks. They have 1 tank up on the boost, and they have another one playing the ledge at C0. That one's just an easy little drive up, good rock there. And that spot's actually a pretty good spot for pub matches, especially if you're coming from the north side. You can just drive a tank over there, and STB works good, a 140, or maybe even a light tank. And there's just some rocks right there you can get behind. And as the team pushes down the 8-9 line or into the low ground at the 0 line, you can get some good side shots off on there, and you just need to make sure that you don't overexpose yourself to where you can start taking damage. So, good little tidbit there.
Oh, nice shot. Comes on to Anypans. I'm trying to figure out if it was Redux or Dark Ninja, but either way, taking a little bit of damage as now the cap pressure starts here from Carjax in the 251. And you have the 113 there of Bryant, somewhat in front of him on that road. There's a little bit of a deterrent there of potentially trying to get in front, so he takes the shot for the reset. But either way, the pressure has started here, and we see a little bit of a push here now down on the south. Nice shot on the Anypans again, taking 320. As he's now just trying to stay alive, maybe try to spot a shot there on Morphic in that 251, but he's not going to give it to him. And still shots coming across the field on Anypans. Ledif now taking a shot, fortunately not connecting. And he's down to 1 shell left. Again, more damage coming on to Anypans. He is very close to be taking out. In fact, Morphic, if he potentially could come up and get a shot, nope, but he's going to run away.
And I almost disagree with that decision. Morphic being on full HP and the other mediums, well, the other mediums are pulling back now, so it does make sense. He no longer will have the support, so getting out of there once he gets delit, and hopefully he can get out of there scot-free.
Even still, though, would you say that's a good trade, a 251 for a bat shot?
If he could get the kill, however, he does have Ledif there right behind him, so it could just be Ledif that comes around and cleans him out if they figure out the other mediums aren't there. Now, however, what they have done is they've shifted all their mediums up north. Mr. Man's making the push on to Bryant here in the low ground, and the rest of the mediums will most likely flood over the A-line there into the north.
Mr. Man about to run into Bryant, though, as the whole team of Aquatic M60s pushes north. Still has cover, though. Mr. Man is in a good position to take shots. Bryant trying to slowly back away, as we see Aquatic M60s now being very aggressive. And this is the one thing I like about Aquatic M60s is they have a pretty aggressive defense.
Yep, now this is the thing. This is all up to Get Flanked to make the right play right now. They spotted these tanks coming across the north earlier. They know that the majority of their tanks are back up in the north. So it's these tanks all the way isolated down in the south that need to get moving. Only the RU-251 down there that they left in that bottom little corner should be Ledif that goes in and finds him. But meanwhile, they have an overmatch in the north. They can make Carjax and the RU-251 leave and run.
Oh, Morphic is probably going to get tagged out here. 2 shots missing, though. Running for his little life. Run, Morphic, run! Gets over the ridge.
452, a very good roll out of a bat chat there. Meanwhile, Bryant is a little bit isolated in the north here. He is going to make it to cover, and the mediums are only going to be able to take that D-line.
Yeah, but Dark Ninja and Bale still pushing down to try to get shots to stay... continue to have sight on Bryant as he's now rolling around the corner. Mr. Man sees, but unfortunately no shot because of that gun depression.
Now what Get Flanked need to do right now is they need to rotate 1 or 2 tanks over to the 2 cap. They have a majority of their tanks in the south where they can cover Bryant. He's going to be really hard to kill with them all in the south like that with good coverable positions. However, if they can send the tank around to this 2 cap, get Morphic out of here, and get cap pressure going, they can force the team of Aquatic M60s to really have to drive back through their guns. And the other thing to keep an eye on is the HP lead's almost even. It's just in favor of Get Flanked, but just barely. Meanwhile,
as you say that,
goes down to
goes
Carjax.
Down.
Yeah.
That's the second time Carjax has killed Morphic.
You know, Carjax has been on this team for a very long time. He's been on all the way back when they were in the Open League.
Okay.
5 seasons ago. So he's been playing with Dwight for a very long time. He's just one of those guys that's just super dedicated, always puts in the time. He gets asked to do something, you need to learn this or this. He puts in the time, make sure he gets it done. And I'm really excited to see him finally here in the Gold League. And he hasn't always been that tier 8 player, the light tank player for Get Flanked. However, he stepped into that role this season and he's been doing a very good job.
So far.
So if there is a bright spot for Get Flanked, I would definitely say it is him right now.
All right, we're now noticing That once again, Aquatic M60s are rotating their entire tank division, if you will, to that 2 cap.
Now, once again, it's get flanked response. That means everything right now. They need to understand that these tanks are pushing here. They need to get these guns out of the south into the north right now. However,
it looks like they're trying, but it might be a little too slow.
If Ledif gets spotted and they realize the other mediums aren't
here, he is spotted.
They're just going to crash on him. They're going to go down. They may get Ledif for free. He'll only get a shot or 2 off.
Still getting quite a few shots off. He has, not much HP left though, and this should be the kill as Bales comes up and cleans it up. Very nice. That was also very unfortunate for Get Flanked. Andy Pans as well, also very low on hit points. Still has 4 rounds, so, or excuse me, 4 shells in his clip, so potentially could still take out a tank. Gun left alive. Bryant now fighting Mr. Man, but very confident that Mr. Man will most likely get over that hill, take that overmatch on HP, and just.
Now, the thing to keep an eye on is this is a very even fight. HP is almost even, and guns were even until that moment. But Bryant going down in that 113, finally getting picked off by Mr. Man.
Yeah, Veggie now inching forward to take shots. Chai Sniper taking shots from multiple angles now as he's trying to push forward. This is not looking too promising here for Team Get Flanked, but still 30 seconds on that cap. 2 minutes left of this match. I mean, there still hasn't been a reset. They are fighting off the shots.
Get Flanked aren't out of this yet. They could capitalize on this. They do have an isolation on Veggie.
And there it is.
And Veggie goes down. The reset does come in, but that's not super important at this point.
2 minutes left.
They have Chai Sniper Bobby in the north. They need to hurry up and find a kill on Felix.
Solid for a shot. Gets it on Chai Sniper. Very nice. He needed that as Mr. Man is taking quite a bit of damage himself, so
HP's in favor of M60s. However, they're down on
guns are in favor in Get Flanked.
Exactly. Felix will go down here, and it's going to be a 4-2 lead in tanks.
More shots now coming from Andy Pans onto Mr. Man. He knows that he is in a threatened position now, but he's going to go ahead and take out. I didn't see who he took out
and
right
Bales
there.
just lost a ton of HP there, getting shot from Chai Sniper and Bobby, and he's down to almost being a one-shot. However, he does miss his shot.
Oh, no.
Does Andy Pans isn't loaded.
He's not loaded yet. I think Bales maybe. No, he does not recognize that.
He's thinking about it. He was thinking if he could commit it. But the thing is, there's only 1 minute left. So if Bales can get out of there and leave without dying, he can just run away for the last minute. And Get Flanked most likely won't have the time to cap. If they threw all 3 on, they could cap out in 30 seconds. Yep. However, they have to kill Mr. Man first.
Mr. Man is going to go down here, but not without a fight. He may potentially get a one-shot on Chai.
Bobby can eat the shell now. Someone needs to finish him up. 3, 2, 1. He goes down.
Night, but still, like you said, Bales slipping away as Andy Pans now is trying to chase him down. No lights, but there it is. I think he proxlit him there.
No, it wasn't necessarily a prox light. He was within the direct line of sight. If they're within the 400 meters of that bat shot spotting range, they will just spot him naturally.
This is very rough. Bales could be the hero of Team Aquatic M60s right now. Oh, the shot misses.
Andy Pans has to take it. He's going to come over. He's going to go for the ram, and he doesn't get it. And the corpse doesn't do it either. The corpse could have killed him, but it doesn't. And Bales is alive. Get Flanked are too far away, and Aquatic M60s are going to pull this out.
Very unfortunate for Get Flanked. That sucks.
Good try, Andy Pans.
Woo.
Good try. For what he had to deal with, he gave it everything.
Yeah, I mean, what else could he have done, honestly?
Yep, no, he knew he only had those 15 seconds to try to find that shot, and he just couldn't get it. He tried to just throw his tank away, up and over, maybe go for the ram or have his corpse land on him and kill him that way.
I mean, he was one shot, so it was either try something or risk it and not. And arguably, that was the right play, so I don't know.
Yep, and once again, Get Flanked were just a little bit behind. However, they were very close to M60s, and they rotated just soon enough.
Get Flanked actually did very well overall there.
But they kept clawing back into it. They kept it even, and that's what they've been doing with M60s this whole series is when M60s makes a move, they dictate play. Get Flanked are just able to make that move just quick enough to stay in it and to capitalize on it. You noticed that when M60s, towards the end there, they started pulling their tanks out in the north, trying to take the middle ridge.
And they kept rotating back,
then it was the 2-140s, last minute iron, I believe it was, Bryant, that pushed around in the north and got over there. Looking at the damage, Mr. Man in that 113, just an absolute monster, putting up 3,500. Last minute iron, Bobby and Chai Sniper all doing pretty consistent damage there for Get Flanked. Once again, they are still in this fight, and it's actually Get Flanked that have 4 of the top 7 despite losing the battle. Felix and Veggie coming in there around 2,200 apiece. Meanwhile, on the second page, Dark Ninja coming in at 1,600. Morphic, Bales, and Redux finishing it up for Aquatic AM60s. However, the biggest note there is Andy Pans in the back chat. Fired 9 times and only connected for 1 shot of damage. So real quickly, pulling it up. Andy Pans fired 9, connected 3, and only penned 1. So I know he had some pretty rough shots through a lot of that game, shooting at some hold-down tanks. You know, not necessarily the best shots. However, I still would like to see a better connection rate of 9 shots fired for 3 hits. It's a little bit rough there.
So, and I believe Get Flanked actually just called a timeout. So.
Okay. So, you know, maybe they're just slowing it down. They know that they're in this. They know they still have a chance. They just, you know, they want to slow it down, really think about what they're doing and see if they can.
That was very, very close.
Well, yeah, it was close to the wire. I mean,
Bales, that was a really good play, though, from Bales, also recognizing that, because I was looking at the time, but I'd completely forgot. So Bales with the very good kind of game sense there to realize, okay, well, Mr. Man has like no HP left. He has 2 tanks on him. I might as well try to get away. And Andy Pan's also good game sense to notice that as well. As soon as he was finished reloading, which is why he didn't initially go for that shot after, I believe he missed.
Yep.
He had to take cover, and then as soon as he did, he noticed that Bales was running, and he was right on the chase. Unfortunately, not having the HP to really fight it out. That was also a very clean shot, though, coming out of Bales to take him out. Unfortunately, his heaping corpse didn't do enough damage to take him out. In fact, didn't do any damage, and he was able to kind of sneak away with that, kind of steal the victory, if you will.
Yeah, Andy Pans, and it was a really tricky situation for Andy Pans to be in, because once Bales realized he just had to run away and Andy Pans was reloading. Andy Pans only being a 1-shot. If he didn't have shots in his drum, he can't stay right on the tail of Bales as he leaves, because Bales doesn't have shots to return.
Exactly.
And so there's no way that Andy Pans will pull that off. However, he doesn't want to break vision. He wants to know where he is, so when he is loaded, he stands a chance because he knows he's trying to run down that clock.
Like you said, it's a tough spot. It's a really tough spot.
And arguably, you could say Andy Pans got a little bit lucky there just by catching him. It was just that one little gap where he just caught a snip of his tank.
And I thought he got proximate because they were pretty close.
It wasn't 50 meters, though. It was just direct line of sight. They caught it. It was just the right things lined up to where he saw him. Luckily, the other tanks were trying to scramble onto Cap. If they had managed to get on 10 seconds sooner with the 2 tanks to really force that Cap, they may have been able to make Bales come back and they would have been fine. However, it was just that couple seconds too long to where they couldn't get that Cap done, and by then, when they realized that the 140s were still on the Cap, still on the other side of the map where they couldn't get in there.
Yeah, well, that's going to lead us into our third map between Get Flanked and Aquatic AM60s, which will be Cliff.
Cliff, the most dynamic map in the league. Battles on Cliff always turn into desperate double-edged fights. Teams start from the same spots as they do in standard battles. The first base is located near the defender's spawn point, and the second is at the bottom of the hill. Sometimes teams split their forces and send several tanks through the 1-2 line to the left of the small hill, but usually both teams play at the center. The attacking team can send one of the tanks up to the lighthouse or behind it. Fast and quick-firing vehicles are better suited for this map, mainly medium tanks, including tanks equipped with autoloaders.
Here we go. It is going to be Aquatic AM60s with a 3-1 lead over Get Flanked, but we've seen this map turn it around for teams before.
Yeah, no, CD last week got a clean sweep on here, and this is a map that M60s has actually really struggled on this season. I think it was actually against, I want to say it was CD that swept them on here. So looking at the lineups real quick, Get Flanked coming with 4 Bat Chats, a TVP, and 2 Bat Chat Tier 9s. So those Tier 9 Bat Chats new to the game. They have the 5100 gun, 1800 Alpha in the clip. Meanwhile, M60s are just going to push
both teams
very
are
aggressive.
fighting for that hill.
And
Excuse me, that's the donut, correct?
The donut is where Get Flanked are coming in right now, and they're going to complete this push and just come around on the top of the tanks of M60s. It's going to be an all-out brawl here very soon.
Yes, it will. And so much damage going on to Mr. Man as he is eliminated from the battle. Last minute Iron getting away with just about a third of his HP left. Dark Ninja is going to go down. Last minute Iron going to take him out as he retreats. Very good stuff from Get Flanked. Aquatic M60s need to get at least 1 or 2 more tanks just to stay in this fight as we see Get Flanked swarming around them and taking the shots and landing them. Beautiful from Bryant as he takes out Veggie out of sight, though, finding a kill onto Bryant.
So the biggest thing to keep an eye on there is bringing this many autoloaders after this first engagement. They're all reloading right now. Carjax and Felix up on the hill, both reloading. Out of sight, just emptied his clip and is reloading. Last minute Iron, Bobby, and Chai Sniper all are batchats or autoloaders for that matter.
The only autoloader actually on Aquatic M60s is Morphic in the 251.
Non-autoloader.
Non-autoloader, excuse me, is what I meant, yeah.
Yep, meanwhile, Andy Pans from downtown finds the sight on Morphic.
Felix now trying to take out Carjax. He's got to be careful though. Carjax has a full clip. Close to full with 4 shots, but not anymore as he gets taken out by Felix. The last and lone little autoloader from Aquatic M60s. And just like you said, I mean, Aquatic M60s have kind of struggled a little bit on this map.
Yep, no,
this is where we saw the famous veggie play. Oh, wait a second. Oh, Bobby, no. That nice little juke. Bobby goes all the way down the hill. I was suspecting maybe he'd fall off and die.
Trying to go for the cheeky little Goomba there, can land on top, misses.
So that's the second time we've seen a little play there from Aquatic M60s on Cliff in a losing situation.
Yep, and once again, this was a completely different strat out of M60s from what we've seen from the other battles. So once again, it comes into we're playing a team that we feel pretty comfortable against, so let's try something new. And at this point, it's just experimenting to find something that works for them, because this isn't a situation of having some strats that work that they know that they're just trying to save for a team so they don't reveal their hand too soon.
Yeah.
This is, all right, what we have on Cliff isn't working, so let's try something new. And that's what it was. The problem was, I guess, easily put, you could say they got flanked. I mean, that's really what it is. Get Flank came up with the one line, got in behind them, left them in that pincer there in the middle, and Get Flank's focus fire was superb. Put down tanks, looking at the damage. Felix leading it off out of the whole match with 2,500. Carjax, Andy Pants, Bobby, and Shy Sniper leading up for Get Flanked, all doing some pretty good damage there. Looks like all of them got through 1 clip of damage. Meanwhile, Morphic only putting off 1,300 with 9 shots fired. And it's actually Mr. Man that gets focused off. Only fires 1 shot for 0 damage.
He got taken out very, very quickly there.
It was the first tank down that went down that brawl, and he just couldn't get through his clip.
Right.
And, that makes it 3-2.
3-2, so Get Flanked is fighting their way back. They know they're in, unfortunately, a very bad spot right now as far as the standings go, and this would be a huge victory for them. Meanwhile, Aquatic M60s have been dominating recently and now having a little bit of trouble against Get Flanked. I wonder if that's going to be kind of a little bit of a mindset change for them, which is very dangerous.
Well, I think they already have that mindset change. Sometimes what happens is teams will play down to another team's level. You see that happen a lot in real sports as well. One team goes in with favorites. But
see, you mentioned that very early when we got into the first map, how they were actually showing quite a bit of respect to Get Flanked.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's Get Flanked. I think it was, or showing respect to Get Flanked. I think it was, we feel we're the better team, so what we're going to do is we're just going to let our individual play speak. So they set up very passive.
Okay, that's fair. You did say that.
And they wanted the other team to make the move.
They wanted them to hang themselves, essentially.
Yeah, and so, a little bit different here because Cliff, I feel that M60s are still trying to do something different. However, with it being 2-3, if Aquatic M60s keep up their recent form on this map, it could even up at 3-3.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Going over the lineups here real quick. Get Flanked, bringing 4 bat chats, a TVP, and 2 tier 9 bat chats, so making no changes from last round. Meanwhile, M60 is going with 5 bat chats and 2 tier 9 bat chats.
Morphic is actually going to switch off the 251 and go to a bat chat here.
And they're going to look for some shots on Ledif as he crosses.
They're going to get a shot off of Bobby and Ledif.
Only one connecting
shot. Only one each, though, yeah.
So Get Flanked in a very good situation right now. They have
Dark Ninja taking a little bit of damage there. Anypan's now trading a little bit with Dark Ninja. Morphic still trying to get a shot off on Anypan's, playing that ridge very well as Mr. Man is now dueling, I believe, Ledif? I can't quite see around that corner, but either way, Aquatic M60s have now given up the donut, if you will.
Yep, so with Get Flanked having the positions they are in, they leave M60s in a very tight position.
So much damage onto all of them, James!
Yeah, no, Get Flanked doing a good job punishing M60s here.
Morphic about to go down, and he does to Carjax. Bryant now cleaning up Felix. Very bad situation.
In with a full clip.
Last minute Iron now taking out Dark Ninja. His shots go onto Veggie and Bales.
Last minute Iron a little bit sloppy there, only connecting his first 2 to pick up the kill, but then missing his second 2 shots. However, it is going to be Chai
finally some shots, yeah, on Chai, but Veggie is in a Very open position as he now trying to back up to avoid some more shots getting taken out. Carjax, meanwhile, moving up in the Tier 9 Batchat AP, taking shots onto out of sight, connecting none, unfortunately, as he takes a little damage for his trouble. But still, the team of Get Flanked is swarming around Aquatic M60s as they run out of options and, quite frankly, out of tanks and hit points. This one is going to go to Get Flanked.
Yeah, no, Get Flanked. They seem to have this map down. They understand the crossfires. And, you know, M60 is still struggling on this map, and they just couldn't get it done. Both strats seemed a little bit shaky out of M60s and Get Flanked.
And your prediction was correct. Aquatic M60 struggling on Cliff.
Yeah.
That was very, very quick responses there from Get Flanked. They were able to take out Aquatic M60s in almost record time that I've seen as far as this map goes. I mean, Cliff is a brawl map. Let's just get down to it.
Definitely.
But the way that they played that, I mean, that was faster than I've seen around start. Sure, we've seen a tank get lost here or there, but not 3 or 4.
Yeah, well, the team from M60s, they went all into the middle, and because Get Flanked went with a little bit of a risk, you know, going with that split, that's what a lot of teams want to do when they run those splits, when they end up getting caught out, is they say, all right, we want to make sure that we control this middle here, so they send tanks off onto the side. And you know, Ledif and the other batch that was with them, I can't remember who it was, they were lucky to get out there without getting tracked.
Andy Pans?
It might have been. It was Andy Pans or Brian. I can't remember. But they got out there with only taking 1 shot of damage. And once they were there, if M60s wanted to go over to get to them at that point, they had to cross the guns in the middle. And so it's just a very well-established crossfire. Now, they were a little bit lucky that, you know, Get Flanked, I would say, was a little bit lucky they managed to establish it. But M60s hesitated, you know, maybe not feeling the map and was able to get in there. Going over the damages, Andy Pans doing 3,200. Brian, Ledif, Shy Sniper, Last Minute Iron, all in the top 5. And Bobby down there in 7th place, with Bales being the only one putting up good damage for Aquatic M60s. Meanwhile, Carjax coming in there with 1,250, and then the rest of Aquatic M60s, 1,200, 1,100, 1,100, and then sub 1,000 to finish it out. So just not able to really get into positions where they could really do consistent damage. They kind of got left in that crossfire, and it's a very brutal place to be, just sitting in the middle there with guns on both sides of you. And it was the indecision from M60s to make a move to decide which way to go where they could really capitalize on it.
Right. And just like that, we have a tied game now from Get Flanked, finally finding some sort of bearing in this this round robin of the Gold League so far. It's been very tough for them. They have been coming off not so many wins. Like you said, they were down in a huge round deficit, but finally able to not only get 1, but now 3 rounds against the top 3 team of Aquatic M60s.
And they're in this. They're
absolutely
in this. Now, whether this is M60s making some mistakes and letting Get Flanked in, or Get Flanked
just playing really well.
Just playing well. I'd have to say it's probably closer to the first, to be honest, but we'll have to see.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to the next map, which is going to be Mines.
Mines, a small summertime map with lots of hills, rocks and other cover. The teams start the battle in the usual locations, but the base locations are different. One is located in the bottom part of the village, and the other one is in the water. One of the key objectives is the center hill. That's why the teams will often select fast vehicles and tanks with strong turrets for cover.
Going over the lineups here as we move on to Mines. Get Flanked bringing 2 113s, an Object 140, 3 Batchats, and Carjax and that M40-43 bringing out the Tier 8 artillery.
Yeah, we have already on both teams, actually.
Yeah, no, I was going to get to is M60s, 2 113s, 2 Batchats, a TVP, a Tier 9 Batchat, and then deciding to go with the M53-55, and it is the side of Aquatic M60s that are attacking. Meanwhile, Ledif going for the climb along with Last Minute Iron. We saw this a lot during the Grand Finals, and the team from Aquatic M60s are going to be here, and they're going to get in position to block it. Now, here's the thing. Is now that these tanks from Get Flanked are up on this hillside, they actually don't need their momentum to keep going up. So if Get Flanked play this right, they could put some pressure on the team from Aquatic M60s, and just the threat of knowing these batch shots here is going to make Aquatic M60s have to play a little bit differently.
Yeah, and something else to note there, they are actually safe, relatively safe from any arty pressure coming out of Aquatic M60s in that 53-55.
Correct. The only way that he'd really get a shot is maybe if he moved over to C1, or someone went over and boosted him onto D1 might have a shot.
Right, but I mean, that's very risky. I mean,
especially, exactly.
Right now, it wouldn't be because, I mean, we can obviously see where the other team is as well, but usually it's not safe to push up an arty that far.
Yeah, but the thing to look at is Get Flanked don't have any tanks on the 1 line, so if Quad AM60s send a tank over there, get some eyes,
they
make
can
sure
scout it
and then maybe decide it's safe if they do it fast
then
enough.
that would really be bad for Get Flanked.
Now here's the thing. Get Flanked, they don't want to stay passive, and right now they're going to spot these 113s. However, they haven't spotted these tanks moving off on the side. Bales has backed off the hill. I would expect to see him most likely do the 0-line boost here in a moment, which could cause some problems for Get Flanked.
We'll have to see, and I'm very interested to see where Bales is going. Indeed, actually.
So what he's going to do is, if he's going to keep his speed up, he's going to try to hit just left of this giant rock right here, and if he can get past the rock, the rest of the climb is fairly easy. So he hits it going pretty fast. He gets in there, he gets around, and he looks like he messes up.
Stuck.
Yep, so he's going to have to back off.
and do it all over
reclimb.
again?
Yeah, getting up towards there isn't so hard. It's making sure that you're carrying enough
He
momentum
is
to get
lit,
past that
though,
rock.
so potentially he could take shots, if I'm not mistaken, from around F5, F6, where those tanks are on
What
the
I
hill.
would be more worried about being spotted over there isn't him.
Is the Artie?
No, neither, actually.
Oh, okay.
What I would say is it's the team of Get Flanked realizing that a tier 10 is off on the 0 line by himself and them pushing this hill entrance.
I was just going to keep guessing until I was right, by the way.
You'll get it eventually. You're picking up on things slowly but surely, and not too bad for only really playing this game and watching it for about a month now. So.
Yeah. Oh, and there it is. Shots over. I was right. It was Andy Pants.
Correct.
So he's going to take one shot. Not terrible, though. I mean, that situation could have been a lot worse. He could be dead.
No, there is a spot there where you can get tracked, and if you get tracked and the autoloaders are sitting there and they manage to retrack
slowly,
you,
sinks down towards
yeah, if they could, the biggest thing there, it's not necessarily being tracked in the first place because you do have that repair kit. It's when they get the second tracking shot after you repaired
use the repair
and they
kit,
just
exactly.
keep you there before your crew can repair it. It's called permanent tracking, and you most likely go down. And meanwhile, Quad AM60 is going with the gamble here, just pulling all their tanks off of the hill, and they're rotating away. Now it's up to Get Flanked to realize that this rotate has happened.
This is the thing here, though. This is what you and I were talking about. If they do realize that there's no tanks over there on the west side or the 1-2 line, and there it is, the M53, 55 of Felix is actually going to move up. This is potentially a very dangerous situation for Get Flanked, as that Artie is going to, oh, never mind, he's going to tuck in right there at A1. But even still, he's going to get a little better positioning.
Morphic, all of a sudden, has no HP. I missed what happened there. He must have eaten a shot from Carjacks.
I didn't actually see what happened either.
I'm very confused how that happened. He's in the bat chat, so I'll have to go back and watch the replay for that one. Meanwhile, the thing to keep an eye on here is this bat chat of Bales is still up on the hill. And so he has shots onto the backside of Get Flanked as they try to come over here to deal with this one cap. This is what this boost is really good for.
Oh, that was a cheeky little push over there for Chai, taking a shot at out of sight. Now all these tanks coming around the corner to take out out of sight and Mr. Man in the 113s, and it looks like out of sight about to get destroyed, but more trades coming over Dark Ninja, and he's actually going to take out Last Minute Iron, pushing them back. Very nice play.
Get Flanked in a very good position. And what I love here is...
Try still poking over that hill, though.
Yep, so what Bales did is he's over here on the 0 line where he had shots on the backside of him. However, what Get Flanked did is they realized what they were going for, and they pushed in to where guns were relatively equal. They knew Morphic was low HP, and they knew that was essentially 2 guns out of the fight, and then you have artillery, which callers will often say is a 3rd gun out of the fight because it has such a long reload. So they felt that they had an overmatch, and they just pushed in and killed the tanks off the cap. They didn't let the cap pressure build up. They just pushed right in, and they took advantage of the numerical advantage in just the raw guns.
Yeah, now Bobby getting taken down, Andy Pants taking out Veggie in the TVP, and this very quickly is starting to go in favor of Get Flanked as they have a 3-tank advantage with only 1 down, that being a Last Minute Iron.
Meanwhile, Bale's going to try to hunt down Carjacks. Carjacks isn't loaded, so he will go down.
But, I mean, even still, that's the least of Quad AM60's worries right now. Dark Ninja, though, going to take out Ledif and get taken out right after himself from Bryant in the 113. So, I mean, it's really a 1-on-4, realistically.
Essentially.
Chai is probably going to be the one that's going to push that M53, 55, just because he's the only one of threat not being one-shot right now him or Bobby.
What I'm not a big fan of is Bales chose not to reload after that. With the artillery so far away and just being so vulnerable, you should almost just count that he's out. It looks like he just decided to hold his shells.
That's very unfortunate. Good night, Felix.
Yeah. Going to what I was talking about Bales real quick, though, is he decided not to drop his clip and just keep the 3, so hoping they could get over there and help his artillery and try to get some shots off before you're loading. And there's a lot of tanks like tank on the one clip anyways.
Oh my goodness, good night, sir.
However, all the guns there for get flanked, all just obliterated in him, and down he goes.
So, being down 0-2, get flanked is now up 4-3.
Yeah, no, and I like them. One thing I do want to say is, like the map picking coming out of Get Flanked, I'm assuming. The fact that Cliff somehow made it into the maps that were played. If I was AM60s feeling as shaky as I do right now, I would have probably banned it, because they had not showed anything that was been too impressive recently, so maybe one of those maps they need to work on. Yeah, as far as Cliff goes. Now, mine's a different story. I do like what I saw out of AM60s, however, Get Flanked, starting to understand that they have a very good read on M60s is what I'm trying to get to.
Yes,
they see the strats, they're able to recognize it, and they're making plays trying to counter it. You can tell that they're clearly, the moves they're making are clearly calculated. They understand what M60s is doing.
All the right moves in all the right places.
Yeah, and so a couple of them haven't worked out, but they're making the right moves. It's just, it hasn't always paid off. However, Get Flanked now have the lead.
Yeah, they have the lead 4-3 here. As we take a look at the damage, it's going to be Ledif in that bat chat doing 2,400, and then followed by Carjax in the M40 actually doing, maybe he's the one that actually put a lot of damage going there on Morphic. We didn't really see that. And then Shy Sniper, Bobby, and Andy Pan's running it out. All at 2K, very good spread there from Team Get Flanked. As we see, Bales is the only one that was really doing comparable damage for Team Aquatic AM60s, as he's doing 2,200, and then it drops off to 16, and then just kind of into nothing.
So what I will say is Carjax fired 6, only had 1 direct hit and 3 splashes, but did 2,100. So most likely that 1 direct hit was on
Morphic, yeah, whose life disappeared. We didn't even really see shots coming out of any tanks at that point. So
yeah, no, just
maybe he just took a shot. I don't think Morphic was really even lit.
However, if you want to find out exactly when that shot took place, go to whatreplays.com.
Hit him with some knowledge.
Download the VOD of Carjax from later tonight to the exact replay. Go down there and see exactly what we unfortunately missed there. I want to find out what that was, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm betting it was Artie. Or, real quick, you can go to WG League as well as WGLeague.net to catch up on not only our region, in case you want to go to that replay, or the entire Gold League season in all regions. APAC, RU, EU, NA. Check it all out. But please, continue.
Yep. So, but overall, as far as just the whole team and Get Flanked, they did a pretty good job putting M60s in a very awkward situation. Right. They had those tanks kind of halfway up that boost where they knew that would come, and they had to leave that one batch out there to make sure that those tanks didn't push, and they were trying to trick Get Flanked into thinking that they weren't there, and it worked until they showed up on the 1 line, which is to be expected, because once you get spotted there, they know for sure you're gone. At that point, it shouldn't matter. However, with the tank being spotted up on the 0 line, they knew they could push in and have a relatively good overmatch. They managed to out-focus fire M60s and won that round. However...
so this is the first time they've been up. It's nice to see this, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, they did pull out that win versus Rival on week 1 in overtime. However, this is the first broadcast match where they actually have a lead. So we'll have to see if they can finish it out. Aquatic AM60s going with a hard 1-line push.
Yep, and now we see Mr. Man here in this grill, which is not a tank I've seen him play too often, I want to say.
Very hard-hitting tank destroyer.
Oh, yeah, it's fun. I love playing it. And just as we say that, 742 gets passed on to Bobby, and I'm assuming that was Mr. Man.
Yep, had to be. Nothing was really else in position to hit him in that exact spot. Going over the lineups here, Get Flanked bringing a 113, 3 Object 140s, a Bat Chat, a TVP, and once again, Carjax and the RU-251 getting on to cap. Meanwhile, Aquatic AM60s going with a 113, 4 Bat Chats, a Grill 15, and an M40-43.
Yeah, they're still bringing that Artie. They're still sticking to their guns there as far as that decision goes, but this is a very quick and aggressive play coming out of Get Flanked here. I like this. Dark Ninja taking a little bit of damage. Actually, a lot of bit of damage now. Veggie taking some damage as well as they're trying to push over and take out Ledif and Bobby in the 2 140s, but those tanks are still going to get shots off, and Dark Ninja gets tracked.
I don't understand this push out of M60s. I mean, I get what they're going for, but they're pushing in a situation where they don't have the advantage.
Get Flanked is trying to close out their very first victory. Ledif now needs a little bit of help. Here comes Last Minute Iron, the TVP. And Veggie should be at 1 round left, almost out of a clip. Last Minute Iron still has 2 shots left as he's now coming around.
They can't let Veggie get away, and they can't let him stay alive. Last Minute Iron needs to make sure they clean him up. One shot.
This is huge, and he's out.
He can't get the kill.
But so is Veggie.
He can't get the kill. But Last Minute Iron will reload first. The Bat
Absolutely, 20 seconds.
So maybe Carjax finds a shot from the distance here, however, not coming through. Last minute iron will be loaded soon.
He needs to keep that angle, though. He needs to make sure that Veggie doesn't get any cover. Otherwise, he's in threat of being destroyed himself, as he's now trying to... Veggie is actually doing a really good job of staying elusive here.
Carjax just going to leave and try to come in from a different angle.
And Mr. Man is going to take out Brian in a 113 somewhere. That is most unfortunate. Again, a very hard-hitting tank destroyer, as Aquatic M60s have actually crawled back in the lead here in this game.
I did not like that push out of M60s at all.
It was risky.
It was very risky. However, they managed to just out-focus fire those tanks from Get Flanked, pushing that one line, and we are going to see a tiebreaker tonight, which is going to be Ghost Town.
Oh, interesting. Oh.
Another big shot from that Girl 15 going out on the TVP.
And now it's, miss coming out of Veggie, but unfortunately it doesn't really matter. Or does it?
He gets the kill, however, he won't have enough.
Yeah, Andy Pants is going to go down here, and it's a very hopeless situation. As Aquatic M60s, with a very risky play, actually going to bring it back and tie it 4-4.
Yep, and now the thing to keep an eye on here is when going into a tiebreaker, the team that gets to pick the side is going to be the team with the fastest attacking victory.
Which is easily going to be Get Flanked.
It should be. So I'm not positive on that one, but it should be. We'll find out as soon as, we'll let you guys know as soon as we know.
Actually, I believe I can find out. Let me just take a look here, right here.
Well, when we find out, but back to finish my point, though. Very risky there out of M60s. They made that hard push on the one line, that grill in there to support them, and I think that grill was really what kept that together for M60s, getting those good early shots off, and it didn't leave a whole lot of space for Get Flanked to work, because when they wanted to make that late push, he was just able to keep rifling off shots, and you can see exactly how effective he was in that position. Fired 9 for 3,800 damage, just being an absolute monster in that grill. Meanwhile, Bale's coming in with 2,700, Dark Ninja, Veggie, and Redux finishing out for Aquatic M60s. Meanwhile, Andy Pans and Ledif both coming in there sub 2,000 for Get Flanked. And then the rest of Get Flanked really struggling
kind of rounding
to get
out the bottom there.
So, the RU-251 was on cap, so I don't expect a whole lot of damage off him. Same with Bryant. Bryant was just cap pressure, only able to really get one shot of damage. However, the other thing to note there is the artillery for Aquatic M60s, he fired twice and only got off 5,200, so not a huge factor in that game.
Right.
Not really
that was very close to going in favor of Get Flanked, though. I mean, the way that Aquatic M60s played down south, southeast, when we saw the push come out of Get Flanked, that was very risky, like you said.
If Get Flanked hadn't overextended and pushed those tanks down late down the one line and just held what they were doing and kept the crossfires going, I think they could have pulled that off. However, once they realized their tanks were low and the other tanks had just finished clipping out, I think they felt they could make a play and get aggressive on that one line and kill them before they got the bad shots got through their second clip. However...
Sorry to interrupt real quick. It is going to be Get Flanked with the side choice, and I believe they're going with defense on Ghost Town.
Okay, so looking good for Get Flanked. And the other thing to keep an eye on is a tiebreaker means that you would at least get 1 point. The way the points get split is that if it goes to a tiebreaker, the winning team only gets 2 points, but the defending team, or the losing team, gets 1 point. Right. So that would put Get Flanked on 3 points, still in that hot seat. However, this early in the season, every point counts, and so we'll have to see.
At least they're getting a point, and that's great. And honestly, sure, they would have wanted to take a win right there, 4-3, and they would have been able to get 3 points, but they... For whatever reason, Aquatic M60s were able to stay in the fight.
Now what would be fascinating to see is Get Flanked. The only other time they've gone to a tiebreaker so far this season, they won. So if both their wins came...
And that was against rivals.
That was rivals which we'll see in our next match versus Apex. So I'm excited for that one. But we still have this last round to get through
absolutely. It's not about them right now. It's about this very last match. Can Get Flanked finally take another win here in the Gold League? I hope they can, for Dwight's sake, because I'm kind of a big fan of Dwight, simply because he took shots at you. But, I mean, you did get your shot back, which is respectable. But, yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, this is do or die right now for Get Flanked. They are, fortunately, in the bottom and on their way to get relegated out if they don't make some sort of comeback here. So.
Yeah, and to be fair to Get Flanked, they've worked really hard over the last couple of years through all the seasons, and they've always been one of those teams that put in the work to really try to improve themselves. So I wouldn't count them out yet. I know it's looking bad for them in the standings, but I think they can do it.
I think they can as well. Let's head over to Ghost Town to see what happens.
Ghost Town. The first absolutely symmetrical map, made especially for 7 versus 7 games. The teams start the battle on opposite sides. There are numerous ways to attack here. One of the bases is located in the central square, the other one at the top of the city. The hardest battles are usually fought for the top base, and this calls for the use of heavy tanks. Sometimes the teams choose fast tanks for spotting and base capturing.
So our very first overtime of the night, as well as the last match between Get Flanked and Aquatic AM60s. So here's my question: what is the benefit of going defense on this map? Because we've seen defense on other maps very advantageous to defense. Is this one of those maps?
It's not so much that this map's defensively sided, but most of the time when you get to a tiebreaker, the teams will just naturally take defense because the time is in their favor. They have that 10-minute clock to work with. So if they have a strategy to really play this slow, make sure they can get some resets and not really have their hand forced, then that's what they're going to do. This E100, a lot of times what teams will do is they'll bring that and they'll actually load HE shells in that E100. And the thing is you know, I've talked about, say, for instance, IS-7 turrets being very strong. In this case, the 113 turret's also very strong. And for the team of M60s, they've also brought the 2 T10s. So we could see any number of those tanks get on to cap into that little hold down on the west-hand side. And what the E100 can do is he can just roll over and fire an HE shell. And even if he doesn't pen, he'll still do, you know, a couple hundred damage, or if he gets, you know, a lucky roll, he could do a lot, and it'll just keep getting the resets for Get Flanked. And then at that point, they just have to let the clock run out. And as I say that, already a minute gone.
Yeah, well, a little bit of damage going on to Bales, but nothing too crazy. Wait a second, even more damage. Nice shot from Carjax in the 251 on that hill. Gets another shot on Bales as he finally gets delit. But Bobby here with that E100 is a huge threat to that cap.
So Carjax just rifling off what shots he can. Bales does get lit, so he will be able to see him now. But Carjax deciding to take a different target.
Shot. All right.
So this elevated position we've seen a couple times. We saw it out of some of the EU matches last week, and then I believe it was Blue Mini from High that we saw. Meanwhile, Aquatic AM60s deciding to go for a push, already down 3,000 HP.
This is again a very risky situation here, as they're going to push over on Bobby in that E100.
They are clawing it back in.
Trying to take it down, but wait a second. Redux from behind gets taken up with the 215 to Bryant, as well as the 50B from Last Minute Iron. Chai Sniper there as well, and another 250 firing off shots as Felix and Out of Sight now are getting drained of hit points.
So looking good for Get Flanked. We have to see if they can really close it out. That's been their problem this season. The bat shot of Andy Pans backing out. He does have 3 shells. Out of Sight, bouncing a shot off his front
bounce off of that. Batshot are known for very paperish armor, if you will.
Oh, definitely. There's almost no armor at all to speak of. I don't even know if there is a French word for armor because they don't seem to know what it is.
That was a shot. All right. Still just both teams out a little bit more cover, trying to find angles. Dark Ninja, though,
pushing in and taking a lot of damage for it.
I think they're using him as bait just so Bales and Veggie can get through, but here comes Bales trying to get in front to save him, but it doesn't work. Veggie getting a shot off as Bryant, but they've got to watch out now as Andy Pans comes over from behind. And Bryant and Last Minute Iron each taking a tank. Veggie is not the last one, but very soon to be, will be Dark Ninja in the 113.
And not looking good for M60s. Only 2 tanks alive, 791 HP left. Get flanked in a good situation here. Last Minute Iron could do this all by himself if he had to. But they are going to go for the hunting for the kills. They understand these are all autoloaders, probably reloading, trying to catch a tank out. Let it does have shots,
goes down, and he can probably take down. Nope, doesn't need to. There it is. Get flanked.